I want to start with one that comes from my friends at the Field of 68. I don't know who tweeted this, by the way, because I technically, like, quote unquote, run our socials. Like, I would say most of what you see on social media is either something that I posted or one of our awesome producers posted. But anyway, somebody yesterday tweeted just a simple question. What player is the biggest threat to Zach Edey for National Player of the Year? And then Goodman retweeted it like 30 seconds later, which makes me think Goodman might have posted this himself. Like, Goodman's just like hypothesizing.
No chance.
I don't know. He has the login, and like that wouldn't be like a me or Rob move to just like tweet a question out of nowhere. I don't know. I have a theory that it was Goodman that did it. Anyways, it got me thinking, because I do like the question. Like, could someone steal this from Zach Edey? We rarely see back-to-back National Player of the Years. We saw Sheboy have an opportunity to win it last year, and he was not even in the conversation. So there's a lot of routes you could go with this. You could go the guard that Tristan said earlier in the show. But who is the biggest threat to Zach Edey to win National Player of the Year? Tristan, let's throw it to you first.
Yeah, I responded to that yesterday by saying Kyle Filipkowski's hips, because that's clearly going to determine whether or not he's viable for it. Because if you're going to beat Zach Edey, you have to be on a top 3 caliber team, national title aspirations, and there has to be some kind of narrative. And it's been a minute since a Duke player has been in the national player. Well, not necessarily a minute, because Banchero was in it, but a team that can truly win it all, be your clear best player. I'm personally not on the Tyrese Proctor train. I think he's getting way too much hype. And I think Filipkowski is going to be the clear best player for them if healthy. And you mentioned before about Edey and Tshiebwe. I think the roster that Oscar was on last year was not fit for him, for him or the team to succeed. Because quite frankly, if you have Severe Wheeler as your starting point guard, you're not going to be a true title contender. I think Edey's roster fits him perfectly. They're going to be, my personal opinion, they should be the consensus #1 team to enter next year. Like, I do think that they're better than Kansas or Duke. So he should be the clear favorite, and he's going to put up the numbers. But if there's anyone that can touch him, it might be Filipkowski if he averages like 20 and 8 next year for a 1 seed Duke.
Art?
So, there's like a couple of like narratives, I guess, or like guidelines you got to have with this. You got to have the team success. I feel like you got to have the accolades. And then you obviously got to have the numbers, all things that Zach Edey did last year, and was honestly kind of able to rival what Sheboy did the year before. Now, when you look at it that way, my initial reaction was a player like Clingan or a player like Dickinson being able to have the numbers, have the team success, and, be able to, have all the accolades, I think. So I'm going to lean Clingan just because I think that they're going to feature him a little bit more than Dickinson's going to be featured with Kansas necessarily, because I think Kansas has some other pieces. And I think the ball is going to be in DeJuan Harris's hands a lot. I feel like with UConn, they're really going to honestly pound it to Clingan a lot. And I think he has the ability to play major minutes. And if you want to do like the storyline factor of it, it would literally be the same thing as like Zach Edey. Like Clingan plays behind Sanogo, who's a good player in his own right. Edey was playing behind some good players in his own right. He finally gets featured. People have questions about Clingan. Will he look like this in the major minutes, or is he like a per 40 stats type guy? And he comes onto the scene and he plays really well. He has an established point guard in Tristan Newton that'll help him out, make things easier for him. I love the freshman Castle. I think he could be one of the better guards in the country. Obviously evident by his rankings and when you look at, NBA mock draft boards. So I think I lean Clingan in this one, and it'd be good to see the bigs continue to dominate the National Player of the Year while the guards get all the love.
Card, I love your answer. I love when we agree, because Donovan Clingan is my answer. And if we're answering the question, like, who is the biggest threat to Zach Edey? My honest response to that is nobody. I think this award is Zach Edey's as long as he's healthy and plays this season. I don't see a world where he falls out of the conversation the way Oscar Tshiebwe did. He's too good. Purdue is too centered around him. They're not going to switch things up personnel-wise. He's going to do what he did last year, if not better. The bigger threat might be if Matt Painter doesn't care about the regular season, as Cart has hypothesized. Like, there is a world where Painter's just like, you know what? Everybody's seen Zach Edey. He's unselfish enough. He's getting paid a little bit. He can play 25 minutes a game this year. Let's keep him healthy and get TKR some minutes because he looks really good. Like, that might happen. And if that happens, then it does open the door for some other guys. But I'll be honest, guys, going up and down the list of like the betting favorites for the Wooden Award, I don't think there's many guys who have any chance to win this other than Klingon, like for all the reasons Cart just said. Like, here's the betting favorites that aren't Zach Edey, and I'm just going to give my one sentence reason why I don't think they can win. Kyle Filipowski, too many mouths to feed at Duke and injury issues. Hunter Dickinson, he's Hunter Dickinson. Armando Bacot, he's Armando Bacot. Like, I'm sorry, two guys that we haven't seen take strides individually in the last 4 years, even though they've been supposed to on mediocre teams, are going to suddenly be the National Player of the Year. I'm selling that. Max Asmus is the one I could maybe squint and see, but I'm not super confident Asmus is going to like have the freedom to be the engine of that offense. Like, it might be run through Tyrese Hunter, and there's a lot of other talented guys around him. Umar Ballo, no disrespect to Umar Ballo, I'm not confident he's even the best player on Arizona. Tyler Kolek, come on, what are we doing? Caleb Love, again, what are we doing? Like, I'm not seeing all of this anywhere other than Donovan Klingon, who is the exact recipe that we saw with Zach Edey last year. And I think even the three of us, I think, would agree on this. Klingon is going to be the first big drafted in the NBA if he wants to go, right? Like, is there somebody he's the most talented big in the country.
God, you really hate Indiana, don't you?
Who from Indiana is going to be drafted before Klingon?
Oh, Kiel Ware.
We hope, right? Like, we hope that happens.
Oh, no, he will be.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Sorry. I forgot. Is Zach Perrin still on Illinois? He's going to be drafted too. I think Klingon's the recipe, right? Like, do you guys push back hard on anything I just said? Like, is there anybody that I ran through names wise who you think could happen, Tristan?
No, I mean, honestly, it's probably going to be a transfer that just blossoms out of nowhere on a new team that probably does it. Because there's going to be guys who put up stats on average teams. Like, if Bacot goes for 20 and 14 and UNC rises to somehow a top 10 team, that could be a narrative statement that potentially puts them in the mix. Because then it's like, okay, UNC is finally a Final Four contender again. Bacot puts up absurd numbers because he really can. And if you want to talk about narrative, not to be trolling, but if Kansas is the number one team in the country and Dickinson puts up 18 and 8, and people are going to compare him to Edey automatically because of the Big Ten connection, there could be a chance that he gets in there. But ultimately, the problem I think with Klingon is I could make a case that UConn finishes third or even fourth in the Big East because that conference is loaded at the top. Marquette brings back just about everyone, and I think that David Joplin's going to replace Omax offensively just fine. Creighton was a top 5 team if you excuse when Ryan Colbrunner was sick last year. They were legitimately one of the best teams in the country, and assuming Stephen Ashford replaces Ryan Nembhard at point guard, they're going to be in the mix again. And then, you know, I did a piece yesterday when it comes to top transfer classes, and St. John's is number 1. I mean, how good can Rick Pitino have them early on? Like, there's a chance that UConn takes a slight step back because, you know, we're going to miss Adamas Sanogo because obviously Klingon's going to be the top draft prospect, but Sanogo was a 20 and 8 guy consistently. And there's a chance that you may not get that kind of consistent offensive production from Klingon, and it could cause UConn to take a slight step back. And plus, they're not going to be as hungry next year. Like, there's going to be an emotional step back unless Stephon Castle is really that dude coming in and just lights it up.
I got 2 long shots I'd sprinkle. One of them came to my mind when Tristan just talked about his team. I'd sprinkle Kalkbrenner. I think there's a chance, especially narratively, that if Creighton is really good again, like top 5 in the country good for parts of the season, you could make the twist of like they lost Kaluma and they lost Nembhard and these guys abandoned Calc and Calc got better and Creighton got better. And I think that would be something voters could gravitate to. He's also really good, like 16 and 6 last year and probably the best defensive center in the country. Like, there is a world where I feel like that jumps up to like 19 and 8 with 3 or 4 blocks. Like, yeah, it could be the best player in the country. And 2, Cart, tell me if I'm crazy on this one. If you want to sprinkle a Kansas player, isn't the value DeJuan Harris?
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
Yeah. And if I could bet on the Koozie Award, I think you get pretty good odds on DeJuan Harris too.
Yeah. I mean, we need to see if he can like actually up the scoring numbers, but he had a couple games in the overseas thing that Kansas was in that he was.
You're talking about sprinkling guards. Is Tyson Walker was a sprinkle at all?
I just think it's hard because I think like Tyson, if Michigan State's really good, can land on first team All-American team for sure. Just doing the numbers he did last year. I don't see how he makes a jump to best player in the country numbers as long as AJ Hoggard is the leader of the offense, right? Like, it's just hard. Like if in a world where AJ was not on the floor, then Tyson would have to do everything and his numbers would reflect that. But Tyson's job is almost like it's too easy for him as is playing next to such a good passing point guard for him to be considered the best player in the country.
No, go ahead, Tristan.
I will say, Greg, are you sprinkling anything on Antonio Reeves? You cooled off on him yet?
I don't think Kentucky. Well, I have Kentucky the top 5 team in the country. I guess they could be good enough. I don't know. I think he could lead the country in scoring, but I don't think he can win National Player of the Year.
I do want to say one thing, and I'm not trolling at all when I say this. There actually is some value in Caleb Love. There truly is.
That's so ridiculous.
There is. There's not any good. The guard play in the Pac-12 is not going to be that good.
Yeah, Isaiah Collier, Boogie Ellis aren't very good.
He's the type of player who can actually get hot for an extended period of time. Arizona could be really good. And if they're picking like the best player from one of the better teams in the country, from a guy who could maybe not on great numbers, but he could average 20 points. I see a world where that could be worth it. I know you hate it.
You came on the show a week ago and said USC has the best backcourt in the country, and now there's no good guards in the Pac-12.
I mean, that's a lot on Isaiah Collier. That's one team.
Okay. I mean,
I would argue Arizona averages 90 points a game with Tommy Lloyd, and Jaden Bradley can't score, and Umar Barlow is not a scorer. Without Tabellis, someone's going to have to be that 20-point per game scorer. And look, I'm with Carter. I think Caleb Love got way too much blame for what happened in North Carolina last year, and I'm kind of tired of the fact that RJ Davis just skates by with nothing. Like there's some equal blame there. So I wouldn't be surprised. And if you want to talk about a narrative statement, Caleb Love leaves Hubert Davis, goes to Tommy Lloyd, and becomes that incredibly efficient 20-point per game scorer, and Arizona is a top 5 team again. That would be a nice little redemption arc. So I don't hate the Caleb Love pick at all.
Who do we think Tommy Lloyd is? Like, he's not Christian Bale in The Prestige. He's not a miracle worker. Like,
did he not just help Kirk Kriisa get a big bag in West Virginia? And
you think that Caleb Love could score 20 a game efficiently?
Why not? Who's guarding him?
I mean, we're not saying he's gonna shoot like 48% from the field, but like if he averages 20 points and shoots like 42% from the field.
Kirk Kriisa was about as good as an inefficient guard can be at Arizona, and he was horribly inefficient. That was probably the largest.
Caleb Love's a lot better than Kirk Kriisa.
I don't know that he is.
He is.
Okay, I guess we'll see. Overseas, Caleb Love shot 2 for 19 from 3 and came off the bench. But yeah, let's bet him National Player of the Year. Jeez,
get it out of the system.
Why? What are we doing? What are we doing?
I said a sprinkle. Exactly like I said he was my pick.
Well, next week we're gonna do a list of guards that I would sprinkle before I would sprinkle Caleb Love. Okay, there's 3 of them in Arizona's roster that would come to mind. Let's move on. I'm grumpy now.